We've all thought about walking away. At some point in life, no matter how strong you are, something starts to wear you down. Quietly. Slowly. Deep inside. And then one day a thought appears. What if I just leave? No explanations. No goodbyes. Just disappear. Now imagine this. You don't have that option. You feel exhausted. You feel trapped. You know this life is not what you imagined. But no matter how badly you want out, you cannot leave. That wasn't just a fear. That was reality for a Roman soldier. Because unlike us, they didn't just quit. They couldn't. Most Roman soldiers joined the army before they even turned 18. They stood in formation, surrounded by men just as young, and took an oath they barely understood. This oath was called the Sacramentum. It wasn't paperwork. It wasn't symbolic. It was a binding promise. Legal, religious, and absolute. From that moment on, they no longer fully belonged to themselves. They belonged to Rome. And this wasn't a short commitment. This was 20. Sometimes 25 years of service. Think about that. A teenager making a decision that would control his entire adult life. Every single year. That oath was renewed. Not forgotten. Not faded. Renewed. Year after year. He recommitted. Even as the reality of his life became clearer. Harsher. Heavier. Because Roman military service wasn't just a job. It was a complete transformation of identity. Soldier couldn't legally marry. He couldn't own property in the normal sense. He wasn't judged by civilian law. His commanding officer had power over his life. And his death. In every meaningful way. He became part of the military machine. But Rome didn't just take. It also gave. Food. Pay. Shelter. Equipment. Medical care. And at the end, a reward known as Premia Militiae. Enough money to buy land. Start a business. Build a future. Auxiliary soldiers even earned Roman citizenship. And those who completed their service honorably received something powerful. Honesta missio. An honorable discharge. A badge of status. Respect. Identity. But hey, race the truth. That reward came at a cost. Most people couldn't truly understand at 18. Because life doesn't stay the same for 25 years. People change. Feelings change. Priorities change. And for many soldiers, the desire to leave grew stronger with time. Family was one of the biggest reasons. Imagine being stationed in a distant land. Britain. Syria. The edge of the empire. Years pass. Your parents grow old. Your siblings build lives without you. Your children grow up barely knowing you. The Vindolanda tablets. Real letters from Roman soldiers. Reveal this painfully. Messages from home. Invitations. News. Problems. A life continuing. Without you. And you can't go back. Then there was the physical toll. War wasn't clean. It wasn't heroic in the way stories make it seem. It was exhausting. Brutal. Repetitive. Injuries didn't end your service. Pain didn't excuse you. You were expected to continue. No matter what. And financially. Even that wasn't as simple as it sounded. Yes, soldiers were paid. But deductions for food, equipment, and other costs reduced what they actually received. Meanwhile, opportunities outside. Land. Trade. Inheritance. Could slip away. So a soldier begins to think. Is this still worth it? And that's where the line is crossed. Because leaving without permission wasn't just quitting. It was desertion. A deserter wasn't someone who made a mistake. It was someone who made a decision. I'm not coming back. And under Roman law, that decision had one clear punishment. Death. This wasn't rare. It wasn't symbolic. It happened. Again and again. Because the Roman army understood something very clearly. If soldiers could leave whenever they wanted, the entire system would collapse. But desertion wasn't as simple as running away. Because where would you go? You're far from home. You have no legal identity. You can't openly use your skills. You can't live under your real name. You're always hiding. Always looking over your shoulder. Rome even tracked deserters. Records were kept. Descriptions circulated. Documents like military diplomas and provincial records made it possible to identify those who disappeared. Was it perfect? No. But the risk was always there. Still, not every soldier who left was executed. Because Rome wasn't just strict. It was practical. Sometimes amnesty was offered. Deserters could return. Without facing full punishment. Not out of mercy. But because Rome needed soldiers. Killing everyone who fled didn't solve the problem. And not all exits were illegal. There were official ways out. If a soldier was seriously injured, he could receive missio causaria, medical discharge. If he performed exceptionally, he might be granted early honorable discharge. Rare. But possible. And in some cases, soldiers could request leave for family emergencies. But these decisions depended heavily on commanders. And approval was never guaranteed. What's truly fascinating is what happened in between. Because the system wasn't as rigid as it appeared. It adapted. Older soldiers weren't always sent to the harshest duties. Men with skills. Writing. Trade. Administration. Found less physically demanding roles. Requests for leave were common. Some were approved. Some were denied. Life didn't stop. It adjusted. So most soldiers didn't leave. Not because they didn't want to. But because leaving wasn't simple anymore. After years inside the system, something deeper happened. They changed. The army wasn't just where they worked. It became who they were. And this is where Rome's real genius shows. It didn't rely only on force. It relied on psychology. Take someone young. Place them in a structured system. Surround them with the same people. Give them identity. Routine. Purpose. Do it long enough. And that system becomes their reality. At some point, the outside world feels unfamiliar. Even uncomfortable. So the question isn't just, why didn't they leave? The real question is, could they still imagine a life outside? Yes, some tried to escape. Some took the risk. Some paid the price. But most stayed. Not because they were forced to. But because they had become part of something. They no longer knew how to leave. So now ask yourself, if you were in that position, trapped between the life you chose and the person you've become, would you walk away? Or would you stay? Simply because staying feels easier than starting over.